got anyone who's ever listened to anything I say, which is probably not that many people, knows how big a fan I am of Malcolm Hollingdrake. I've been a fan of yours since before I even joined the book club. You've been one of my go-to authors for years. Now,
thank you very much.
Introduce yourself properly. Show off any books you've got, aside from my Elephant Ear books.
Well, I've got 2 of those. Thank you very much. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. My name is Malcolm Hollingdrake. Originally, I started writing the first book, which is just to the left, I think, of Sam's head, called Bridging the Gulf. Originally, it was called Engulfed, and it's a thriller set in Bradford and Northern Cyprus, and it's based around an ex-soldier who comes home to try and pick up a normal life. I then decided that I wanted to write a crime novel, and I started with the Harrogate series. And I started with Harrogate because I'd read that it was the happiest place in the UK to live. So I thought I'd introduce... I thought, well, I didn't want to spoil it. I thought I'd introduce a bit of crime. And I thought they'd have enough space for that. And I also loved The Stray. And then funnily enough, about 4 years later, I think it was the 4th happiest place in the UK to live. So I was winning. I was getting them down the chart quite quickly. And I was born in Bradford, and I went to college in Ripon, and so we used to travel through Harrogate quite frequently, and it became quite a favourite place as a child. My grandfather was born in Ramsgill, which is not far out of Harrogate, and so we used to go down on weekends and sometimes during the school holidays for day trips. So it became the place to set the stories, and I'm pleased to say I've now done 10, and I'm writing number 11 of the Harrogate at the moment. Originally, I self-published, and then I managed to get a publishing deal who signed me for 7 books. And then when I'd finished the 7, I then carried it on myself and self-published the rest. And then I wanted a change for a while, and I looked to write a series set near to where I live, and that's near Merseyside. And I can remember travelling to Southport as a child on a day trip and not having a particularly pleasant experience. And so the Sefton coast between Liverpool and Southport, I set the Merseyside. So the first of the Merseyside, which came out on the 20th of this month, I can never do this, can I? Catch as Catch Can. And the second one, following in hot pursuit, published by Hobbies Books, is Sin. And this one's predominantly set in the Southport area, whereas the other one is predominantly Merseyside, Liverpool.
Just asking Caroline where I'll see the questions, because I'm not sure on this one.
Well, don't worry, we'll bumble along. And
I've got plenty to talk to you about.
Right.
Just don't want to leave everybody else out.
So Merseyside's really done very well, and Hobbies Books have been fantastic. And I wrote the Merseysside because I didn't want to put the Harrogate to any publisher, but I wanted a publisher because I hate marketing. And I just thought if I get somebody to take the Merseyside, I can work happily with the Harrogate publishing and so on. And then they can take the lead with that. And I've been absolutely thrilled with them. Great part. I feel as though I'm in a partnership, and we communicate regularly about the books and the publishing. And I've had a lot to say about the book covers. And Jem Butcher, the book cover designer, I thought made a fantastic job of them. Love them.
Give us a close up. I daren't touch mine, as you know. I tend to knock things on from my head, but the on Sin as well.
The character, of course, is one of the Crosby figures, the Anthony Gormley figures, which features in the story. But this one is quite. Have I got it? It's quite fascinating because the little character here is how the book started. I visited my local farm shop, and Philip Speakman creates these most magnificent scarecrows, and I've seen them for years, and they always look so realistic. And you can look on when you're walking at, say, dusk, and you think, is that a person over there? Or is it a scarecrow? Sometimes it's a person, but more often than not, it's one of his scarecrows. And so that was the start. And when Jem was designing the cover, the image he put on I wasn't happy with. So I sent him a photograph of the actual scarecrow. And consequently, he put it on, and he said, actually, I don't usually take photographs from authors because they're usually very poor. But this one works, so he was really quite pleased, and I'm thrilled. And and the reason for that is the title, of course, which you probably have worked out the subtlety of the not too subtle title and link. Yeah? No?
No.
Yes? No? Okay. Well, if you might
have completely missed it.
You might remember there was a years and years ago a series of books by Russell Thorndike called Dr. Syn, spelled S-Y-N, Dr. Christopher Syn, who was a vicar in Dymchurch and Romney Marshes.
Not something that I'm
going way back in. They were set in, I think, about 1790s, 1800s, and he became a smuggler, and he to hide himself, he saw a scarecrow and he took the clothing of the scarecrow and rode his horse dressed as a scarecrow, and all his other band of merry men dressed as different things, and so it became known as the Scarecrow. And Syn was his name, S-Y-N. So the Scarecrow in the story, I thought, linked with Syn spelt that way rather than the standard way, and it links to the stories that I liked as a child. And Walt Disney made a film, actually, Dr. Syn. I think he made a few. So if you ever get the chance, have a look on YouTube, and there's a Dr. Syn film. Very, very simple now, but fabulous.
Sometimes the best things are the simpler things.
I think so. So that's how that title became through the Scarecrow only. So, yeah.
I do want to thank you as well. Myself and the book club and Lucy as well, Lucy Sampson, were mentioned in the acknowledgements of Catch as Catch Can, which did not go unnoticed, and it's greatly appreciated. Imagine getting to the end of a great book and then you just get giddy feet because one of your favourite authors thanks you in the books. I mean, it's not the first time you've done it, and it's always.
I appreciate all you do. Really, without you, we would be nothing, and really all the bloggers and the clubs. I can't thank enough, because they've been extremely supportive throughout my sort of short career, and it's just stunning.
In fact, while we're on that, I'll ask you to tell the story about. I did relay this to Caroline, but I'll ask you to tell the story better than I did.
When I was looking to write a while ago, Caroline, I did a book auction for the school, and one of the books was called Deadly Doses. It was a guide to all different poisons, and it's a fabulous book. I think it's American, but I'm not too sure. And it's been sitting on my shelf since I managed to successfully purchase it. And I was going through that, and I got the idea. Well, there were two links. I'd broken a tooth chewing an almond, well, 2 teeth, and I had to have the first ever extraction. And so I had a huge gap. And I was using a tincture to help the discomfort. And then I read this book, and I picked out some poisons, and that's where the idea then came from for fragments. And it links with, of course, my teaching career, my history in schools. So I knew schools very, very well, but I've never taught in Harrogate, I've never taught in North Yorkshire, but I moved it all to North Yorkshire, and that's how it started. So with that one piece, that book became the inspiration for Fragments, book 10 in the Harrogate series. And you only need something like that. Like the Scarecrow was the next one. That started Syn, and Catch as Catch Can was something I'd read in the Telegraph about mopeds and moped gangs. And I thought, well, they're moving further north. So I thought, well, let's bring them into Liverpool. And that's how that began.
How different has it been starting a series with, you've got 2 fantastically strong female leads. You've gone from writing something set in Harrogate with the very well-established team that you've got going, and then you've changed it completely. How difficult has that been?
Very hard. I didn't want this series to be anything to like the Harrogate series, but I've never been a reader, so I've never read any crime novels. So I just have to go blind, really. And And I knew I wanted to change the whole sort of identity of this series, and really having the two female lead characters, I thought was the perfect way in. So writing a female voice, I'd written with people like Liz Graydon and April Richmond in the Harrogate series, and people seemed to like them as characters. So I thought, well, I was originally going to bring April Richmond on promotion over to Merseyside. But as I started to write, I got to about chapter 2 and didn't like the idea, and then changed it. And I was listening to a radio programme, to the True Love Show on Bradford Radio Royal on a Sunday evening, which I always try to catch. And there was an author on there, and her surname was Decent. I thought, what a great name. So I changed it to April Decent, and I was going to call the books and the series A Decent Murder, A Decent what, and so on. But then I thought it's a bit twee, really. And but just kept April Decent. The difficulty comes, of course, is when I'm writing now the Harrogate, I keep writing April Decent. And when I was writing the Merseyside, I was writing April Richmond. So when I came to edit, I had to be very conscious that I was trying to get rid of them. So I put in the checker, Richmond, none. Great, that's all right, it's working. But it's lovely.
So, Skeeter
Yes.
Warlock, unusual name.
Yes. Well, Skeeter was a singer originally, way back, and that's where I got that one. And of course, Derek Warlock was an Archbishop of Liverpool, but it was spelt differently. It was WOR. So I thought, well, Warlock would be quite acceptable within Liverpool. And I try to use it in the books that people say to me, any relation to the Archbishop? And of course, because she's got plastic hair and a bent nose and a cauliflower ear, she tries to say in a very polite way, no, I'm not. I don't think she's religious at all, really, apart from her wrestling, which she's exceptionally keen on. But I just thought the name worked, and I'd had that in my head for quite some time. It was April that changed, and then it was a case of building up the other team and other characters slowly, like I did with the Harriet series, and over the period of the series, build their life stories within, rather than give you a mass lump of who they were, where they've been, what they've done. Allow that to grow as the number of books in the series develops. So hopefully people will accept that and like it. But I like writing Skeeter's part. It's just fabulous. She's just, to me, a real character.
You did thank somebody, and I meant to write his name down, and I apologise for your
Royce Banks.
Research.
Royce Banks, who has a gym in Ince in Wigan. Royce's gym.
This is where my granddad was from.
Really? Is that the gentleman
we talked about my granddad.
We did. He had the flat cap at the back.
His hat is
here,
there. So I don't knock it off anymore.
How lovely.
I couldn't bring myself to knock it off. And I wasn't sure where he was from, but it is Ince.
Well, Ince gym has been there Royce's gym has been there a very long time. And a lot of the Wigan Rugby League players go and train there at Royce's. And a lot of the wrestlers, and Catch As Catch Can Wrestle, or Wigan Wrestling, originally started in a shed at the bottom of somebody's garden. And it was men only, of course. And so you had your pit men coming in, you had young lads training and being part of it. And then it grew. There is still and it's called the Snake Pit. And there's still a Snake Pit in Wigan where kids can go along and learn. It's a tremendous discipline. It's all mat wrestling. There are no rules, really. You can't bite or poke somebody's eye out, but there are no rules. It's disciplined in itself, and you cannot stop until you've managed to get somebody down and shouldered or tagged. And it's, to me, it's something that I would have loved to have done as a younger person, but since finding out from talking to Royce for a couple of hours, it just seemed to suit. And there are quite a few now very, very good women wrestlers, a particular one I think who lives in Lee, and she has quite tight. And so they all inspire. You see them, you look at them, and you take a little bit from them, you add them to your own characters. And I think by doing that, you make them quite real. But yeah, Royce has got 2 cauliflower ears. But there's something fascinating about a cauliflower ear if you ever looked at one. It really is. So Skeeter's got one.
I don't think I've ever seen one up close in real life. But
well, that's your challenge for the next week. Find a cauliflower ear and have a look.
I'm going to have to go scarecrow hunting and cauliflower ear hunting.
Cauliflower, yeah.
Oh my word! The hobbies that I get.
Hobbies, I can inspire many hobbies.
I'm going to go to some of the questions
Lovely, thank
that
you.
we've already got because I've just realised that I'm literally just sat here gazing at you and talking about books and then thinking, there's people watching us. So,
And there's Tony Millington. Good evening, Tony. I can see.
so I'll start with the top. So, hi Sam and Malcolm, that's Kaz. And Joe
Yeah, thank
Singleton
you.
says good evening. Hi Joe.
Good evening, Joe. Nice to see
Spend
you
a lot of
here.
time with Joe at
I'm,
various
I'm looking
author
forward to
things.
meeting Joe at, I think I'm with him on the 27th of this month. I'm trying to think of 7 books that I've actually read. It's not an easy challenge.
Yeah, we'll come to that. I mean, in fact, let's go there because I know somebody else, Anthony Millington, has mentioned, don't know what you're missing, not reading crime fiction. Now, you're just not a big reader of crime fiction.
I'm not a reader of fiction, really. I read a lot of non-fiction, a lot of biographies, a lot of aviation books. And I've just done somebody asked me to write my favourite classic, and I really had to struggle with that. But one of the things I've really liked are short stories. So the Saki short stories I adore, and Saki, of course, were killed in the First World War by a sniper. But his short stories are exceptionally short, and that seems to attract me. So I can pick it up, go wherever I want in the book, pick one out, read it, put it down. So non-fiction is my real passion, and so I've never read an Ian Rankin, I've never read a Lee Child, I've never read so I don't have any particular style in my head, and so whatever I produce is mine. And I was listening to an interview. Donna Moffat did an interview with Peter May, and I was fascinated by that because, my love of artwork, and he lives in a house in France that during the Second World War, the art from the Paris museums were packed up and shipped south. And where he was sitting and talking, in there were rolls and rolls of these very famous paintings sitting on the floor. And he's decided, because people liked his story that he told about the fact of that he then created, I think is it called a Night Gate?
Yeah.
I think it's the Night Gate. That's the latest story that he's written that links with the past and the present. Now, in some ways, linking true fact with fiction, I love, because I read a guy called Robert Ryan, whose real name is Tom Neal, and he writes a series which does link fact with fiction. So fiction, I don't know, but I find that very, very attractive because for some reason. So I've read his books, but they're not real crimes. They're sort of a mixed genre, really. But I do like that area. So no, I've never read any. I don't read a great deal, and yet my wife reads non-stop in the car, Kindle, on the plane, Kindle, everywhere, Kindle. It's in a bag. It comes out whenever we stop. Kindle. Can't do it.
So, Kaz actually asked about deadly doses and how you used it, and you've already gone into that. So you don't have a TV, Joe Singleton said. So I believe you do not read fiction, which you've already confirmed. You don't have a TV. What other hobbies do you have other than writing?
That's a very good question. I used to make an awful lot of leaded windows, stained glass windows, and I actually introduced that for April Decent in the New Merseyside because that's her hobby. She makes that. So I have a working knowledge of that. So I like to use things that I know of, and that helps with the development within that story. So I've made windows for people, and I've shipped them around the world, really. I had the biggest set, which were 3 large windows, 6 foot by 3 foot, that had to run into each other. And the specification was it had to include grapes, sunflowers, and oak leaves because it was going near Toulouse. So I did the cartoons. Those are the drawings you make. Put them together on the full size, sent them, got them signed off, did the colours, got them signed off, and then made them. And it took me probably a month and a half to make these windows in the garage while I was working. So I was doing them in the evening and weekends. And then I put them into frames, and I said they're ready. And the guy sent a wagon for them, and he was taking them then to Nottingham, changing wagon, then taking them all the way down through France, he would collect them where at the distribution, and he would take them to his house and fit them. When the wagon arrived, it was a flatbed wagon container, huge thing. And I said, how are you going to store these? And he just said, well, I'm just going to throw them in the back alley. And I said, no. I said, have you any rope? Are you going to tie them up? Are you going to... Anyway, because they were in frames and boxed, he did. So I said to my wife, I said, as soon as he's signed for them and seen them whole, they can go. Yeah. They arrived in one piece. So I've got windows in Cairo, windows in Cyprus, windows in France, windows here. In fact, my wife had to stop me because I would have glazed the car. You just get carried away, don't you? We'd be blocked in, we'd be like a church. But that's all of it. So that's one hobby. I used to fly a lot. Don't do that anymore. That was a real passion. And my other one is going to auctions, which I used to do before lockdown, and buy paintings and then sell them and move them on. So try and find sleepers. So you try and find the one that's not incorrectly catalogued. So it's underpriced. Get it correctly, have it identified, and then sell it on and hopefully make a few bob. Yorkshireman, you see.
I did wonder where Bennett got that from, and that's your experience.
Again, it's right what you know, isn't it? And it's, and I think people are fascinated by auctions and by the whole process of buying at an auction. There's nothing better than buying at but selling at an auction is an extreme sport. It's extremely frightening, believe you me, because you don't want to lose any money. And I bought a painting from a local auction, but sold it through Christie's in London, and that was frightening. That really was. And you have to go through that process to say you've done it. But to be honest, Sam, oh dear, it was scary, really scary. And funnily enough, that painting was bought by a company who then managed to make prints and sell the prints to anybody, whatever size they want. So they probably did very well out of it. I just didn't have that thought.
Making me think of, I don't know if you'd have watched it if you're not a TV fan, but Only Fools and Horses, the
I know. I don't know the auction scene. I know the scene falling through the bar with the cocktail with the umbrella. I think I've seen that on YouTube. And
I like to think that he didn't spill a drop as he went down. I wouldn't have spilled a drop.
But fascinating, isn't it? Really, that. I've not had a television since 1984. But I mean, there's YouTube things now that fascinate me. So watching a car program or an evening, or I watch one called the Tool Workshop, which I adore. But there's and of course I like watching these sort of things that come on from different book groups. I just find that quite fascinating. So I don't miss a television at all. In fact, I don't know where I'd put one if I got one, because now they seem to be about 8 foot by 9 foot and sit on the wall, and I don't know. And I don't think I'm missing anything, but everybody keeps telling me about this something of, I don't know, on the Sunday evening that I'm missing. The last one was missing.
About it.
Well, that one, but
we're having a what's the word? Moratorium. We're not talking about the thing.
Cheers.
Because cheers with my Coke. Delightful. It's actually quite nice. It's black sheep you've got, haven't you? My husband will be ordering some now. Now I've mentioned it.
It's lovely.
We've not had any since we last went to Leyburn.
All right.
We love to go there, but it's been a while now. Obviously, at least.
It's nice Leyburn, isn't it? Leyburn Market.
Yeah, beautiful. There's a campsite there that we used to go to a couple of times a year, but we've not been now for a while. It's right on the edge of the village at the Pheasant Inn. So if the Pheasant's open and anybody's up there, go in, see Kath and John, tell them Sam said hello, and have a drink for me.
Sounds lovely.
The most beautiful place. At nights there, when we were camping, the kids would be asleep in the tent. My husband would stay in the pub with my dad. And I would just sit, and there's no light pollution because it's right on the end of the village. It's gorgeous.
I like Leyburn very much. There's a good auction site house at Leyburn called Tennant's. Massive.
I've never been, but I'm aware.
You want to go? Oh, now the restaurant. And they spent about £1 million on the building. It's fabulous. And that's one of the first books I describe an auction with Cyril Bennett. And that was the old Tennant's. So I was sitting in the car park, and that's where I wrote that particular scene for that. Like it.
When I go back up there, I'll go and visit.
Go visit. You'd love it. You really will love it.
We've got Joe asked where do you get the inspiration for your books?
Everywhere, Joe. Everywhere.
I'm sorry, I've just realised I'm having a bit of a dense moment. Anthony Millington is our Tony, isn't it?
Tony Millington. Yeah.
Yeah. I've literally just dawned on me. Sorry, Tony. Let's go back to Joe. Oh my word! Maybe I should go and get a glass of wine. So inspiration
everywhere,
for your books.
everywhere.
Yeah.
And before lockdown, of course, you used to see it everywhere in crowds and street and restaurants, but that's all stopped. So you have to use what you remember. But there's still a lot to see. I like the Scarecrow, or like the book from Caroline. That was just great. So, and when you get one, you get a real cracker, and you've got to keep it in your head, or you've got to write it down. You wake up in the night and you remember something somebody
Do you
said.
not have kind of like me, post-it notes just of the here, the there, there's packs of them, there's stuff stuck to the desk beneath me, they're everywhere.
In a way, I have a notebook and I keep those there, and I'll say to Debbie, "Can you just remember this for tomorrow? I need just this one word." And
I've got notebooks everywhere as well.
I'll remember it. So notebooks, and you just keep them, don't you? And
they're just they're everywhere. I'm surrounded by. I'm a fire hazard, actually. Look at my desk. Not good.
Hell's Gate, the second book in the Harrogate series. I was out on holiday. And I bumped into a chap, and I was talking to him, and he came from Harrogate, and he said, there's a tunnel underneath Harrogate. And I said, no, I didn't know. And he said, not many people do. It's called the New Brunswick Tunnel. So, of course, wrote it down, came home, researched it.
It makes my heart beat really fast thinking of that tunnel and what takes place.
Oh, it's there. It's there. You can go down and see it. And I just thought, well, let me write it. And that's where I made my first major mistake that I'll never make again about harming animals and dogs, and although there's not a lot in it, and I thought I handled it quite sensitively.
I thought you handled it sensitively.
Yeah, I did too. But there was a lady who read it, and she stopped reading it when she got to dog bit, and I said, well, just before that, a man gets torn to pieces. She said, you can do anything you like with a human being, but don't harm the dogs. I thought, well, fair enough. So I've tried to keep away from it, and I've written that anyway, so I don't want to write it again. So I try to be kind to animals, or birds.
Good advice, otherwise it might not be a scarecrow stalking you through a field.
No, true. So it's, but inspiration comes from everywhere. And of course, Joe will know Southport, and the one-legged diver, and the carousel called the Gallopers. All of those come into it, and I actually bring in a description within the Atkinson Gallery, one of my favourite galleries that I like to visit regularly. It has my favourite painting of all time in there, Lilith. I've written about Lilith as well and linked that in. But they had an exhibition of land speed record cars. And so, again, you can remember that, and you can take it, and you can place it, you can describe the scene as it was. So it's not unreal, it's actually happened, but not at the time scale that you're setting, but people aren't going to know that. But I know Joe knows the carousel, and he knows the legged diver and the pier and all of that. And by using real areas, real streets names, real places, I think it helps people put the books into some sort of perspective. And if they haven't been, they want to go, maybe.
Yeah, I've got to tell you, I'm sitting here and got you and Caroline and Yorkshire and Wigan accents, and it's making me very, very happy. Really
That's
is.
good.
So, what was I too young for, Joe? Oh, was it from where Sin came from?
Oh, yes, the books, Dr. Sin.
Dr. Sin. Apparently,
Yeah, you probably would. I mean, I probably read those in the late 50s, early 60s, before you were even a twinkle. So
quite possible. Well, yeah.
But they're still available. So it's part of it is the charm of the written word, and they were written for a particular period, weren't they? So
more things on my list. Thank you.
Have a look. Just have one. Just pick one, but don't pick the first one, because he goes to sea on the first one, I think, if I remember rightly. But pick a later one when he's actually the Scarecrow.
Joe wants to know, did you spend all your time as a teacher or did you also do other jobs?
I was a teacher for leaving college, taught originally in Bingley, and then got married and moved to Wigan because my wife was from up Holland here. And then we went to Corfu in the early 80s, 81 maybe, and we both felt a sense of place. So we decided we'd try and find a teaching job there.
Okay.
And we went to the local school that was run by a lady called Marie Aspiotti. And we said, if there's 2 jobs come up, can you let us know? So we came home from holiday and I just been accepted as a deputy head. And I had this ambition, I wanted to be a head by 30 and I wanted to be a deputy by 27. And I managed to achieve the 27 one. And I got home from the interview saying, you've done it, got it. And the letter had arrived that morning to say there were 2 jobs in Corfu going in September. So we decided that Debbie would go out and teach in Corfu. I would do my deputy head job in England, and then I would go out every holiday. And so we found her a flat in Corfu town during the summer break, and then we had a year apart. We loved that, but we met a guy there called Richard Gilby, and a little while later, he started to teach in Cairo, and he asked me to go out and help him with the development of a primary school. So I went out the Easter with Deb, and I got a job offered as a senior teacher of 1,000 pupil Egyptian. Well, it was predominantly English primary school, and I came home, came to the authority, asked for a 2-year leave of absence, which they granted. And we went out there, and it was quite fascinating, actually, because for our staff meetings, I had to have translators to interact with certain members of the teaching staff and for them to interact with me. So we had 1,000 kids. They were all bussed in during the day, and they were bussed home at night. And we were situated right at the pyramids on Saqqara Road. So we enjoyed that. And then after that, we moved to, Debbie got a job in Northern Cyprus in 1986. And we did the same again. I worked I had a year out and did some artwork out there, and then I came back and we shared. I went out most holidays, so quite varied really. But teaching until I retired when I was about 55 when I finished. I got a virus and it attacked my heart, and I had to stop teaching. So that's when I started to think of I'll write. So, and that's been the rest of it. You can't sit still, can you? You've got to do something.
Yeah, I know the feeling. Do you have a strict writing routine, Joe's asking, or do you start at chapter 1 and work until the end? Or do you write chapters as you go and then piece them together?
That's a good question. I don't plan at all. I sit and start writing. And where I've started at some stage can end up in the middle of the book, because I'll think of something to put in the front at the beginning, and the whole thing is fluid. But I don't have a forward plan. I never know what the ending's going to be until... well, I sometimes have an idea, but it might not work. So I have no structure whatsoever other than just to write it. And it's about keeping as much in your head as possible. And I make notes and I have a book with tags in, and I keep checking that. And then I'll print off so many pages and read through it and edit it as I'm going. And if I don't like a particular part of that, I'll shunt it away, put it to one side and use it later. So I'm very disorganized. I'm very unstructured in a way, but it seems to have worked for 13 books. So I'm going to continue that way. I couldn't plan. I couldn't actually have it all tagged up on a wall like you see some people and post-it notes and you take them down and you put them in. I'm a pantser. I just write and love it. I love every minute of it. The day just disappears, providing I can keep away from Facebook and Twitter. Because when you're on the computer, it's so easy to just go, I'll just check and see if anybody's... I wonder who's on at the moment. I wonder what number Catch Cam's sitting at the minute. And you have to be really disciplined, don't you?
I know the feeling. I've constantly got something in my hand that as soon as it goes, I answer the message straight away, because otherwise there's 15 waiting and you can never catch up. So I'm always ahead. But I can understand it being distracting. I really want to know how your relationship with Holbeck came about.
Right. Well, as I said to you, I wanted to be with another publisher for this new series. That was the whole point of writing it. And I'd looked at a few, and I'd actually submitted Catch as Catch Can to two. It had been rejected by the first one, and the second one didn't really get back to me. So I thought, well, I've had this before. It's every author knows the process. And I'd been watching Holbeck, and I knew a couple of the authors who'd signed, and I knew they were new, and that can either be a good thing or a bad thing. I'd had a really bad experience with publishing before, so I didn't really want to go back into the fire. I wanted to make sure that whoever I spoke to, and I sent in the manuscript for Catch as Catch Can, and they asked me to make a few changes, which I did within a couple of days and sent it back, and they accepted it. And we had a Zoom call because we couldn't actually physically meet. And I realised then that it was going to be a partnership. So I thought, well, they're speaking the same language as I am. They want to succeed as much as I would like to succeed, and I'd like to see the book succeed. They were prepared to commit. They both have great experience. Adrian has been with the BBC for a long time. Rebecca has been with publishing for a long time. And I felt I was in safe hands, and I feel as though I'm in safe hands. And we can have, not disagreements, but we do talk about things that what I would like and what they would like. And like all relationships, it's about compromise in many respects. But they've been really open. When I put the titles to them, I thought they're going to change these titles. No question. The titles went straight through. We discussed the first drafts and second drafts of the formatting. And then when it was formatted, I got to be able to see and say, and any changes that I wanted, we discussed them. We either did or didn't. And I've been absolutely thrilled. So I think it's been a really good move for me. And their marketing now is developing as well. So yeah, happy, very happy. And I've got to do a third one, and then we'll see where we are from there. So the ideas for the third one is in. It's locked up here.
But we're not talking about the third one yet.
Nope.
Didn't think so.
No, book 11 has been done, so I can't
Of course, yeah.
squash too many things in.
Not crossing. Do you want to talk about book 11 yet?
No, thank you.
Fair enough.
I can talk about any of these two. It's Harrogate. It's got DCI Bennett in it. And David Owen's still there, by the way, because I know you like David Owen.
I do very, very, very much.
But I've got, do you know what? I was asked by a couple of readers to say, look, can you get Bennett back in to the book, because he's gone out for the last couple. Well, he got married, so he's got to be out, hasn't he? I mean, he can't be there on his honeymoon as well. And Owen's got to grow up sometime. So Owen took the lead on I think Threadbare. So Cyril's back, and Cyril's back on this case because the case is really quite a serious one, horrible one in many ways as an opener. What went on in the garage is just horrible. So yeah, he's decided he's going to lead this completely through until he find the culprit or the culprits. But I don't know who they are yet, so I can't talk anymore about it.
I love that. You just go into it. Yeah.
You don't know, do you? It comes. It just flows. It just comes into your head as you're writing. And I don't know where it comes from. It's a well that I don't know where it's situated, and I don't know how long it's going to flow. But as long as it's flowing, I'm happy. And I know some authors just suddenly lose that mojo, lose that ability to write. And there's touching wood. That's still going.
I had on bookshelves. That's what I do.
I love your bookshelves. I love your earrings of captures.
Getting some
by the way,
new ones so that there's a wider.
It's lovely.
This stack of books is just ridiculous.
There
are books everywhere. I need far more shelves than I've got. We moved in here, and it's just over a year ago in January, and it's like, oh, we'll do all of this, and we'll get settled, and then nope. So things have just stopped and they've not started again yet.
Hey, time's
But
on your side. God made lots of it, so you've got lots of it to go. Hopefully.
I'll have books coming out of my head for the next 5 years, Malcolm. I'm just busy.
Lots of people. I think when the people from Holbeck moved house, I forget how many books they said they had. I think 3,000 some hundred. That's a lot of books.
Yeah,
I mean, I've
probably
got
not.
a lot of books, but not that many.
I tried to think how many I've actually got. I'm not going to count them.
Can you throw them away though? That's the thing. Can you cull them? Can you give them away?
Nope.
Charity shop? No. A lot of people can't. They're very precious, aren't they? They're very personal.
I am more than happy to buy books for people, and I do. If I've enjoyed a book, I often send. Me and Cal send each other books, and I'll buy books for people. I've sent members ebooks as well. If I've enjoyed something, we've been talking about it, I'll send people things. I'm not tight with it. You just can't have mine.
That's the way. That's the way. And you can't have your signed ones either, can you? Those are very special.
Most of the ones behind me are signed.
That's lovely.
Almost everything in the last 12 months, I'd say, has been signed.
That's precious. That's precious.
It's joyous.
My last book I bought was Spring Cannot Be Cancelled by David Hockney. Again, it shows you what sort of books I read. But I would have loved that to be signed. But if that book had been signed, the value of that book would have been amazing. But you try to find one. Not easy.
I'm doing it again. So we've got 20 minutes left. I want to ask about, before I go to the audience questions again, because there's a lot.
I'm just chuckling at one up here. I'm just looking at. Love the chat so far, and Sam, I love you, but camping? ?
Who is telling me off for camping? Let me see. Can you not picture me camping? Let me see. Doesn't say who it is. Sad faces. I wonder if it's Donna.
There's some great questions down there. How would you like to be remembered in 100 years' time?
I bet that's Joe.
It is Joe.
Is it?
Very much like, I can't aspire to be anything like Saki or H.H. Munro, as his real name is. But to be sitting on a bookshelf in 100 years' time will be rather nice. Or to be sitting in a library in 100 years, and somebody just picking it up and saying, goodness me, do you remember when Merseyside was like that? Do you remember the Tobacco Docks? It was ruined in this book. It was a wreck. But now, look at it. Just part of history. I think it's just nice if I don't know, if somebody keeps picking up the book and reading it and enjoying it. That would be absolutely lovely.
Think of how far you've come since Only the Dead. So that's book one. It's When I Discovered You. So that was the first book I read. I've read them all in order. And it was incredibly surprising for me. I remember just thinking, I've just not read something like this before. And I remember there are certain things, I don't want to spoil anything. I think everybody needs to read it. I think it's the place to begin. There are certain things that I don't want to spoil, but I just think there's so many things that bring senses alive.
Well, it's funny actually, because Only the Dead is a bit of a Marmite book, to be honest, because people either love it or they can't get into it. And I can understand in a way, because you need to get a few chapters in to get fully understanding the characters within that book. And it was also the first book I wrote, so I wasn't fully au fait with Cyril and the characters within that. And those only came as you develop the story itself. But I must tell you a really funny story about Only the Dead, where the character is in Salford and he's going to chastise the girl in Salford. And he stands looking at the Media City BBC building. And of course, if you've been, you know it's all full of lights and towers.
Not that far away from there.
Well, you know what it's like. And the character said, the lights at Media City were pretentious. And, a few months after it was published, I got a message from a guy who was reading it. And he said, really loving the book up until the point where I read the lights at Media City were pretentious. I designed them. So of all the people to read my book was the guy who designed the lights at Media City. And I said to David, oh my God, what shall I do? Shall I send him the next book? Shall I write an apology? And she said, Malcolm, it's fiction. For goodness sake, relax. So whether he carried on to read, I don't know. But see, again, a lesson learned that you think, well, before you actually slag something off or say something, just think carefully, because somebody, it might affect somebody personally, like the dogs, like, you know. So you're just cautious in a way, and you learn as you go along to just pause a moment and think, no, that's okay, that's acceptable, I can write that. But yeah, so from that first book to now, I think my writing has changed a lot.
I would say it's changed a lot. I always find it gripping. I always find it pacey.
Lovely.
Slowing in the right places and always confuse me.
Good. That's what I want. Well, I'm confused, you see, aren't I, until 2/3 of the way through, and then suddenly it comes. So if you get it before I did, there's something going to be wrong there, isn't there, somewhere? But I try to, you know what I'm really conscious of as well is language within the book. And I do try very much to monitor the wording that I'm using, the Anglo-Saxon that I want to use. And I'm trying to cut it down. I'll never write a sex scene now. I did in Bridge in the Gulf. But I was frightened of getting the worst sex scene author. I think Alan Titchmarsh got that one year, and I didn't want to be classed in the same category as Alan. So now you have certain things that you want to do and certain things you don't, and I'm working my way to try and use language when I think it's totally appropriate, but not scatter it throughout the whole book. I'd like my mother to read them.
Swearing doesn't bother me at all, but I am from Manchester. I hear the odd.
Yeah, I do too. But I think sometimes it loses its force, and I think if you only use it sparingly with them, the force is still there. And I always think, well, I'd like my mother to. I'd like to be able to. If my mother was still alive, I'd like to read that mother and not feel like. I would never have given A Bridge in the Gulf when it was actually written as engulfed. Goodness me, I'd have blushed. I don't know about my mother.
Probably like asking if you have a favourite child, but do you have a favourite book that you've written? That's Joe. That's the hard question. I always worry about asking that.
Just disregard the new ones. Let's go to Harrogate. If I put them in order, I would say Hell's Gate and Game Point.
Okay.
Difficult to... I couldn't separate those two. I think Hell's Gate really was a lift for my writing from the first book. I got confidence from the first book. But Game Point, because I didn't think I was going to write any more books after that. And I was going to kill David Owen off in that book. And my wife said, if you kill David Owen off, you kill the series.
Malcolm Hollingdrake.
I know. And then I thought, well, I'll kill another one off instead. And it actually was, again, eyes were used, and some people find that squeamish, just like in Threadbare, snakes. People don't like snakes.
Don't mind the snakes, but the hat pins.
Hat pins, yeah.
Oh.
Charles Horner's hat pins. Again, I used to see them come up at auction a lot, and if you look at some of them, they're fantastic. And it just appealed to me. And again, it links that with Charles from the first book. So bringing the Nemesis back into that book, and it's funny because when the gentleman Nick Cam, who narrates those first 5 books for audio, he got the manuscript, and he rang me and said, I suppose it's nothing to do with tennis, this, is it, Malcolm, knowing your books? I said, you're right there, Nick. Game Point, nothing at all to do with tennis.
Yeah, Murder, I'm not mayhem. Massively squeamish, but...
Did make your toes curl a bit, doesn't it, that? The thought of it.
More than just a little, yes. Hat pins, oh, dear. But I did manage to read it still.
Good.
Probably
good.
this.
Like that, through your fingers. Like
through my fingers, but...
Yeah. That's the best way to read, though, isn't it? In certain parts. Oh gosh.
What is it about eyes, though? Eyes and nails and
eyes. Eyes are we protect them so much, don't we?
You're getting some really good weird faces off me tonight. Kaz will be screenshotting these and sending them to me.
Sending you on. Somebody's asked, am I going to Harrogate? Yes, I am. I booked my hotel. So
Have
I've
you
got my
booked?
fingers crossed. Yeah. Well, the hotel booked for me, which was lovely. I contacted them and they said, we've already booked your room, don't worry. I thought, well, that's lovely.
Does Debbie go with you? Or is it just
Yes.
you?
No,
Sure.
Debbie goes with me. We'll meet up with, I sometimes meet with Tony Millington. If he's there this
I've
time,
seen
it'll
a
be
really
lovely.
good photo of you and Tony Millington.
Ah,
There's
it's
a
lovely, man.
big group
Lovely,
of
man.
authors in this photo.
Yeah. Rob Ashman, Karen Ashman, Wes Markin. Just here we have a great time. And that's what it's about as well. It's just meeting new people, meeting readers. And it's a pleasure. And that, I suppose, one of the big things about being a writer that you do achieve a lot of readers is that I've met some fabulous people through it. Just wonderful. And now I like to hope that I can call them friends.
Yeah.
And that's
There's
gorgeous.
something rather remarkable about the crime fiction community.
Oh, stunning. And between authors as well, you don't get any backbiting between authors.
No.
They're very supportive, very helpful. You can call on them and they'll say, I can, if you want any help, let me know. They'll share your posts. There's no animosity at all. And I found that with the Holbeck authors too. They're exceptionally supportive. And if you're being fairly successful, they'll respond. And if you're not, they'll give you some encouragement. I think that's great. So it should be.
Absolutely, yeah. Every industry should be.
Yeah, it's hard enough. It's hard enough being a writer, I think, because it's a lonely profession. So when you go somewhere like Harrogate or a noir event, it's just great to meet new faces, new people, and enjoy a good chat. And then they'll ask me, "What's your favourite book?" And I was, so I say, "What's yours?" You tell me what yours is.
Just talk about the Poison book and move on.
Yeah, the Poison book. It's going nowhere. The Poison book is staying on my shelf. It's a special book now. That it really is.
Joe was asked about. He says you've written about a lot of different subjects and places, and you must have to do lots of research.
Yeah.
So I'll ask you about research as well, but he also wants to know what experts do you not have that you would love to have if you could have an expert on anything at all?
Well, I'm very lucky, really, because I've got a pathologist I can actually contact. I've got a coroner I can contact. I've got people in the medical profession I can contact. Anything at all. Yeah, I'd like a retired police inspector, maybe. That would be nice. I know Ross Greenwood as a retired detective who checks through all of his work, and I think just to make sure that you haven't made a faux pas, that's perfect. But I always remember something that somebody said to me. When I was writing Bridge in the Gulf, I was chasing information, researching information on Semtex. And I wanted to know how much Semtex I would need to blow up a certain amount of bridge. And I'm rooting through this internet, and a friend came and he said, I cannot find this information. He said, well, you won't. He said, well, why do you need it? I said, well, I need to know how much. He said, why do you need that? Because most people in the street won't know. Just right, he used just enough. And I thought, he's bob on that. Because people don't want that finite detail. They want just to know that a little bit, and then you move along. And it's the same, I think.
Those simple things.
Yeah. Why complicate things? Why put too much? And it's that balancing act, I think, Sam, between putting enough fact in or not enough, and making sure that what you're putting in is accurate and correct. And I do believe that that's a skill, and it's something you hone and develop as you're writing. And I hope that if somebody picks up my first book and my last book, they'll see a difference and enjoy both, but find that the apprentice is getting better, because we all start somewhere, don't we?
I've just seen out of the corner of my eye, my English teacher's just messaged me.
Oh, right.
My English teacher from high school. And I've got it open just in case. I normally have Facebook open on my phone so I can see everybody's names, but I can see them while on YouTube. I can see who everybody is, even though I'm a bit dense and didn't shorten Anthony to Tony.
Don't you dare blow. Somebody's put, don't you dare blow up my favourite bridge. I love that.
That's Joe.
Is your wife your chief editor? Yeah, she is. She's an English specialist, a linguist as well. So I just throw the manuscript at Debbie, and she sort of then looks at it and frowns and does her magic. And then I have another lady called Helen Gray, who's a specialist proofreader. When we're happy with that draft, it goes to her, and then it goes to the publisher, and they have their proofreader and editor, and then slowly, but you still miss them. You still miss them, and I think you'll get people can't say, "Oh, there's that," and you look and think, yeah, that's right, but it's been through so many pairs of eyes. And I defy anybody to go through a book and not find at least one mistake, one full stop missing, or a 66 is a single rather than a double, and that was a difficulty going to a Hobeck. They use single quote marks, and I always use double. So the first manuscript that went to them had double, and they all had to get changed, and singles put, and then you put single for quotes within.
I do find that confusing because I'd use double as well.
I can't understand why we used to teach double in school and then publishers put singles, and I just think, let's be consistent, let's have a consistent approach to it, and that makes it less confusing, because it's confusing enough for kids as it is, the English language, let alone where do we put a commas. I mean, who knows where commas really should be? Just as long as you don't confetti them. No, it does. If you read it out loud, you can tell it's right, but I don't know. You can get some people who just, well, I frown sometimes, but then that's life.
Is there anything that you do that Debbie or somebody will pick out and they'll go, "You've done that again"? So with me, too many exclamation marks, and I like to start things with the word "so." Don't know why. Is there anything for you that you do over and over?
Yeah, I think I use passive a little bit too much in the Harrogate series rather than active, and I've changed that within the Merseyside. But I want to keep that style within the Harrogate. But what my bête noire really is character names. So I'll write a book and give it to Debbie, and she'll come back and she'll give me a lesson. Say, you've got 4 Stuarts in this book, or 4 people with the same sounding surname. Can't do it. Change it. And funnily enough, in Catch as Catch Can, there's a couple mentioned, and I gave them a name, and somebody contacted me. An ARC reader said, "That's somebody from a television program. I think it was EastEnders, who's died, but there's a bench named after them." I can't remember what I called them then. Arthur somebody. And so she said, "You can change it if you want. Well, I recommend you change it, but you can keep it if it's important to you." So I thought, it's not important to me. But he said, everybody who reads it is going to visualise this character from EastEnders.
I'm fishing in the back of my head for names, and I can't think.
Can't think who it is. Joe Singleton will know. Come on, Joe.
Somebody will know. No, but you're saying how relaxing your voice is. Now, I do hear that a lot. You do have a very soothing voice.
For a teacher, yes. I never shout. You will never find me shouting. I don't shout at all. But the voice got this. It's years of elocution that did that, you see. My mother didn't want me to have a Yorkshire accent, so she said, "You've got to go to elocution." And I got to ALCM, Associate London College of Music in Speech and Drama. Can you believe? And then it slips, doesn't it?
You do live in Wigan now, and there are twangs.
I do live in Wigan, and I've been here on missionary work for 40 some years, and I'm battering my head against a brick wall, trying to make them all into the white rose, but they seem to want to keep the red rose, really. But we keep persevering.
Our hour is up.
Our hour is up. Well, that's been an absolute pleasure, and can I just thank those people who've asked the questions. And Joe, I look forward to meeting you on the 27th. And Tony Millington, I'll see you in Harrogate, I hope. And good luck with your new publication, Tony. Hope it goes well. I'm
actually interviewing Tony very soon. I'm just
good.
Off my head, this is my insane diary, Caroline Maston. But do you want to give us a quick reminder of any book covers before we finish?
Catch as Catch Can is out now. And this one, Sin, is available for pre-order. I've been thrilled with the response, and I know Holbeck are really delighted with the way things are going. So thank you. And if anybody wants to find out more about me, I'm on www.malcolmhollingdrakeauthor.co.uk, and just contact me anytime, and I'm happy to chat to anybody. I hope you like the books.
I've got Tony on the 21st of July, just before Harrogate, on the Wednesday before.
Fabulous.
And I'm having my hair done on the Tuesday, Tony, so the grey should be gone.
Are you going, Sam, to Harrogate?
Fingers crossed, I hope so. We shall see. We shall see nearer the time. It will be lovely to meet everybody.
It would be nice to see you there.
Thank you very much.
I owe you a beer. Thank you very much indeed. Thanks, everybody. Thank you.